Today we are going to read Chapter 3 of The Classroom at the End of the Hall by Douglas Evans. This chapter is called The New Art Teacher. Charlie hated art. If you mentioned art around Charlie, his stomach would gurgle like a clogged drain. If he even thought about art, Charlie's stomach would go spurt, squeak, pop, grrr, beep, beep, grrr. It was that bad. Nothing Charlie ever created during art period came out the way he wanted it to. His drawings looked like scribbles a kindergartner had done. Every animal he made out of clay looked more like a vegetable. Any project he tried with glue became a smeary mess. Watercolors? Forget it. Charlie's paintings of mountains became brown stains, and his ocean paintings turned to blue blotches. So now you know why Charlie's stomach erupted every Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon was art period in the room at the end of the hall. And the worst moment of Friday afternoon, the time that sent Charlie sputtering the loudest, was the time when the art teacher hung the completed art projects on the bulletin board. What could be worse than to have your embarrassing drawing or painting on display for everyone to see? The art teacher always found something kind to say about Charlie's artwork, but how could Charlie help noticing that his pictures ended up hanging at the bottom of the display, or behind the door, or, worse yet, upside down? One Friday afternoon, Charlie felt lucky. The art teacher was late. Charlie sat at his desk in the front row, both hands on his stomach, his eyes glued to the clock. Maybe the art teacher got sick, he said. Maybe she won't come today. Maybe she was fired and we'll never have art again. After 10 minutes of waiting, the class became squirmy. They started wriggling around in their seats. And here's a picture of Charlie waiting for the art teacher. He's so worried because he hated art so much. The noise in the room grew and grew as they waited for the art teacher. "So where is she?" asked Clara, who was the best drawer in the class and was eager for her weekly opportunity to show off. "We will probably make some sort of turkeys today," said Howard, who remembered that Thanksgiving was going to be the next week. "Pine cone turkeys, paper plate turkeys, apple turkeys, or handprint turkeys. What will it be this year?" And for reasons no one could explain, Roger kept saying, "I hope we do chalk sketches. I hope we make lots and lots of chalk dust." When the classroom door finally opened, Charlie's stomach twisted into a knot. Again it says purr, squeak, pop, grrr, peep, peep. The sounds rolled out from his lap. Into the room walked a lady who looked quite different from the one Charlie expected. For one thing, this lady was extremely short, no taller than the shortest kindergartner. For another, she was extraordinarily broad, so wide, nearly as wide as two desks pushed side by side. She wore a long red coat that reached down to a pair of bright yellow boots. On her head was a floppy blue hat that hid her face. A big white daisy bobbled back and forth from the top of the hat as she stepped into the classroom and waddled like a penguin toward the teacher's desk. Here's a picture of her. "Maybe she's a substitute teacher who hates art as much as I do," Charlie said. "Maybe she's a kind person and will let me do math every Friday. Anything but art." At the blackboard, the lady's gloved hand reached for a piece of chalk. They didn't have whiteboards like we have with the markers. They had chalkboards instead, so that's why she had to get chalk. In large block letters, she wrote, "Miss Tra-la-la." Spinning around on the heels of her yellow boots, she faced the class. From beneath her floppy blue hat came the words Charlie feared. "Good morning, folks. I will be your new art teacher. Your former one has moved to Paris, France, to become a struggling painter. Miss Tra-la-la is my name. In the front row, a low rumble escaped from Charlie's stomach. He quickly dropped his math book onto his lap. A new art teacher? He said to himself. Now someone else is going to see how lousy I am in art. As if reading Charlie's thoughts, Miss Tra-la-la stepped forward until her red coat brushed against his desk. You know, folks, I can tell some of you are not as fond of art as I am, she said, pressing a gloved finger onto Charlie's desktop. Perhaps today your attitude will change. Now, please take out a pencil. Today we shall draw. We shall begin by drawing people. Again, Charlie's stomach. Spurt, squeak, pop, grrr, creep, grrr, went his belly. It sounded like a garbage disposal. People, he groaned to himself. People are the hardest thing to draw. Maybe we will have an earthquake. Maybe I can hold my breath and try making myself sick. Anything to get out of drawing people. Now, folks, some of you might think drawing people is difficult, said Miss Tra-la-la. But soon you shall see that those thoughts are silly. In fact, I shall be your model. You shall draw moi. What is she talking about? Thought Charlie. A person is a person, and drawing a person is torture. Miss Tra-la-la stood by the teacher's desk and held out her glove-covered hands. Now I must take off these wraps, she said. First, my gloves. And when she removed her long white gloves, Charlie got the shock of his life. Now remember, this is a fantasy book, okay? It's not realistic fiction. Your arms, he said aloud. They're nothing but sticks. This was true. Both of the woman's arms were long, wiry, and thin like licorice rope. That's a kind of candy. Here is a picture of her without her hat, without her coat, without her scarf. Just lines like sticks. What is more, at the end of each of these extraordinary limbs, 5 stick fingers poked out straight. Now for my boots, said the art teacher. Charlie sat in a trance as Miss Tra-la-la pulled off her yellow rubber boots. Sure enough, her legs were just as thin as her arms, and her feet were the shape of pickles.